as Agent Marcus Reed slowly pushed his cart down the dairy aisle, blending in with the crowd. The supermarket's fluorescent lights flickered overhead. He was just another customer picking up groceries after work in jeans, a black windbreaker, and a tan baseball cap that was pulled low. But Marcus was not just any shopper. He had been in this peaceful suburb for months as part of a long-term undercover FBI operation. On paper, his task was straightforward. Keep an eye on a suspected money laundering ring that was using local businesses as fronts. In reality, it meant endless hours of observation, careful note-taking, and the constant need to stay invisible. Marcus had become a regular at this store, learning the rhythms of the staff and the faces of the regulars. He was careful and courteous at all times, and he never gave anyone a reason to remember him. But on this particular Thursday, as he reached for a carton of milk, he felt the prickling sensation of being watched. He looked up and saw a policeman in uniform standing at the end of the aisle with his arms crossed and his eyes fixed on Marcus. His expression was more suspicious than curious. Marcus kept his expression neutral, nodding politely as he turned his cart and headed toward the bread section. The officer followed, his heavy boots echoing on the linoleum. The cop called out, "Hey, you," and his voice was loud enough to attract some attention. "Can I see some ID?" Marcus paused, maintaining his calm demeanor. "Is there a problem, officer?" The officer with the initials D. Miller squared his shoulders. "You've been here frequently recently. Store manager says you're acting suspicious. Would you mind sharing what you're up to?" Marcus suppressed a sigh. He'd dealt with this kind of thing before. Local law enforcement who didn't recognize him, who saw a black man in a cap and assumed the worst. "Just shopping," Marcus replied, holding up his basket. "Is that a crime?" Miller's jaw clenched. "Don't try to be smart with me. I asked for ID." Marcus gave a head shake. "I'm not giving you my ID, sir. Unless you have a reason to detain me, I'd like to finish my shopping." A sizable crowd began to form, with shoppers pausing to observe the conflict. Some pulled out their phones, sensing that something was about to happen. Miller's face became redder. "You want to play games? Fine. Move over here." He reached for Marcus's arm, but Marcus stepped back, his voice steady. "Never touch me. I'm aware of my rights." Miller bristled, his hand hovering near his holster. "You think you're some kind of lawyer? I can make this much more difficult for you." Marcus unflinchingly met his gaze. "I think you're making a mistake." The store manager appeared at that exact moment, shaking his hands. "Is there a problem, officer?" Miller didn't take his eyes off Marcus. "This guy's been casing the place. I'm going to need to see some ID." The manager gave Marcus a nervous glance as he hesitated. "He's never caused any trouble. Always be courteous. Maybe there's a misunderstanding." He was turned away by Miller. "I'll handle this." Marcus took a deep breath, weighing his options. He could flash his badge and the whole thing in an instant, but that would blow his cover and months of work. Instead, he decided to let the officer dig his own hole. "You're making a scene, officer," Marcus said quietly. "All I want to do is buy some groceries." Miller's voice rose. "If you don't cooperate, I'll arrest you for obstruction." The crowd murmured, a few people filming openly now. Marcus kept his hands visible, his posture relaxed. "On what grounds?" Miller stumbled as he searched for words. "Suspicious behavior. Loitering. Take your pick." Marcus smiled, just a hint. "Do you really want to do this?" Miller's eyes got smaller. "Last chance. ID now." Marcus reached into his pocket, slowly and deliberately, and pulled out a slim leather wallet. He flipped it open, revealing his FBI credentials. The effect was felt right away. Miller lost all bravado as his face turned pale. The crowd gasped, a few people laughing nervously. "Agent Marcus Reed, FBI," Marcus said, his voice calm but carrying. "And you, Officer Miller, are about to make a very big mistake." The store fell silent. Miller mumbled, I didn't know," and Marcus put his wallet away. "That's the problem. You didn't ask. You pretended. And you just harassed a federal agent in front of a dozen witnesses." Miller's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Marcus turned to the manager. "I will submit a report." and I suggest you review your store's policy on profiling customers." He picked up his basket, nodded to the stunned crowd, and walked away, leaving Miller standing in the aisle, his authority shattered. Officer Miller had just learned a lesson he would never forget, and Marcus was aware that the consequences would be swift as he left the store. The aftermath of the supermarket confrontation rippled through the town faster than anyone could have predicted. Marcus Reed's phone was already buzzing with messages from his FBI supervisor, who had been notified by a local agent who was monitoring social media when he got to his car. A video of the incident had been posted online, and within an hour, hundreds of people had shared it, igniting heated discussions about racial profiling, police overreach, and the dangers of making assumptions. Marcus sat in the driver's seat, taking a moment to collect himself before calling his supervisor. "You handled it well," his boss said, voice tight with concern. "But we need to talk about next steps." Calls are already being returned by the Public Affairs Office of the Bureau. Knowing that the operation would need to be modified, Marcus agreed to come in the following morning. He felt a mix of frustration and relief. Frustration that months of careful undercover work had been jeopardized by a single officer's arrogance, relief that he kept his cool and avoided escalation. Meanwhile, Officer Miller was facing his own reckoning. The police chief, a no-nonsense woman named Captain Ramirez, called him into her office as soon as she saw the video. "What were you thinking?" she demanded, her tone icy. "You harassed a federal agent in public for no reason. The entire city is now watching." Miller tried to defend himself, blaming the store manager, the crowd, even Marcus's attitude. But Ramirez wasn't having it. "You're suspended, and it takes effect right away. Internal Affairs will be in touch, and you better hope the Bureau doesn't press charges." Word spread quickly through the department. While most officers were aware that Miller had crossed a line, some officers felt sorry for him and complained about outsiders and gotcha moments. The department's union rep called for calm, but the city council demanded answers, and the mayor issued a statement promising a full investigation. Marcus met with his supervisor and the Bureau's legal team the following day. They reviewed the video, discussed the operation, and decided to reassign Marcus to a different case while the dust settled. "You did everything right," his supervisor assured him, "but we can't risk blowing your cover. We'll deal with the consequences." Marcus gave a nod of appreciation for the help, but he was disappointed that his work had been delayed. He attempted to forget about the encounter after spending the afternoon compiling a comprehensive report that captured each and every moment of it. But the story wouldn't go away. The video was picked up by media outlets, and Marcus soon began receiving requests for interviews from national networks. He turned them all down and decided to let the spokesperson for the Bureau handle the media. Still, he couldn't help but read the comments online. Some supportive, others angry, many simply shocked that such a thing could happen in their town. The police department, under intense scrutiny, launched a series of reforms. Captain Ramirez ordered mandatory training on bias and de-escalation, brought in outside experts to review department policies, and held a town hall meeting to address community concerns. She invited Marcus to attend, and after some hesitation, he agreed. The meeting was packed, the air thick with tension and curiosity. Ramirez introduced Marcus, who spoke briefly about his experience, not as an agent, but as a citizen. "We all want to feel safe," he said. "But safety starts with respect. We have to see each other as people, not just as problems to be solved." The audience gave a round of applause, and a few locals opened up about how they had been mistreated or profiled. Miller, still suspended, sat in the back, his face drawn and pale. He low-spokenly approached Marcus after the meeting. "I am sorry. I was mistaken. I let my assumptions rule my thoughts." Marcus accepted the apology with a nod. "We all make mistakes. What we do next is important." The two men shook hands, and the moment was captured by a local reporter who wrote a story about reconciliation and the power of accountability. In the weeks that followed, the department's culture began to shift. Officers were more cautious, more willing to listen, and more aware of the impact of their actions. The community, too, became more engaged, organizing forums and workshops to foster dialogue and understanding. Marcus returned to his work, grateful for the chance to make a difference, and determined to keep fighting for justice, both in the field and at home. The lesson was clear. Respect once lost could be rebuilt, but only through honesty, humility, and the courage to admit when you're wrong. As the weeks passed, the story of the supermarket confrontation continued to reverberate through the city and beyond. The video of Officer Miller's blunder and Marcus's calm, measured response became a touchstone in conversations about policing, race, and the importance of professionalism. Captain Ramirez's reforms became ingrained at the police department. Officers attended workshops on implicit bias, procedural justice, and community engagement. Residents were able to share their experiences and offer suggestions for improvement during listening sessions that the department organized in conjunction with advocacy groups in the area. Marcus, though back on assignment with the FBI, was invited to participate in several of these sessions. He spoke candidly about the need for mutual respect and the dangers of letting assumptions guide police work. "It's not about being perfect," he told a room full of officers and community members. "It's about being open to learning, listening, and admitting when you're wrong." His words resonated, and more than one officer approached him afterward to thank him for his honesty. Officer Miller, meanwhile, was undergoing his own transformation. The suspension had been a wake-up call, forcing him to confront the biases and habits that had led him to act so rashly. He participated in every training session, met with a counselor from the department, and even volunteered for a program that matched local youth with mentors. Slowly, he began to rebuild his reputation, both within the department and in the community. He reached out to Marcus, asking for advice and guidance, and the two men developed an unlikely friendship. They met for coffee every few weeks, discussing everything from police procedure to family life. Marcus saw in Miller a genuine desire to change, and he encouraged him to keep pushing forward. The city began to heal as well. The initial outrage gave way to a sense of hope, as residents saw real changes taking place. Complaints against officers dropped, and surveys showed an increase in public trust. The supermarket where the incident had occurred became a symbol of reconciliation, hosting community events and donating to local charities. Marcus's undercover work continued, though he was now more cautious about maintaining his cover. He remained committed to his mission, but he also made time to mentor young agents and speak at law enforcement conferences. He did not tell his story to shame or blame anyone, but rather to motivate others to do better. He stated to a group of new recruits, "We all wear different hats. However, ultimately, we are all human. Never disregard that." Marcus received a commendation from the FBI for his professionalism and leadership, recognizing his contributions. The police department, too, honored him at a citywide ceremony, where Captain Ramirez praised his courage and integrity. "Agent Reed reminded us that respect is a foundation of justice," she said. "We are grateful for his example." Officers, city officials, and community members from all walks of life attended the ceremony. Officer Miller, now reinstated and promoted to a training role, spoke about his journey and the lessons he had learned. He said in a steady voice, "I made a mistake. However, I am committed to improving myself and assisting others in doing the same." Marcus felt like he had come to an end when the crowd cheered. He was aware that there would always be obstacles and setbacks, and that the work was never truly finished. But he also knew that change was possible, one conversation, one lesson, one act of humility at a time. As he left the ceremony, Marcus looked around the faces in the crowd, officers, agents, neighbors, and friends, and felt a deep sense of pride. He had turned a moment of conflict into an opportunity for growth, and in doing so, had helped build a stronger, more just community for everyone. As the seasons changed and the city settled into a new rhythm, the legacy of that day in the supermarket continued to shape both the police department and the broader community. In FBI and police academies, Marcus Reed's story became a case study to teach new recruits about professionalism, restraint, and the dangers of letting bias cloud judgment. Officer Miller, now a respected training sergeant, led by example. He was the first to admit his past mistakes, using his own experience to help rookies understand the real-world consequences of snap decisions and unchecked authority. He and Marcus remained in touch, their unlikely friendship a testament to the power of humility and second chances. They occasionally spoke together at community forums, sharing their perspectives and answering tough questions from residents who still harbored doubts about law enforcement. Marcus, on the other hand, continued his undercover work, but also became a hushed advocate for reform, consulted with departments all over the country, and mentoring young agents of color who faced their own difficulties in the field. He never forgot the sting of that afternoon in the dairy aisle, but he also never forgot the opportunity it had given him to make a difference. The city's police department, under Captain Ramirez's steady leadership, became a model for others to follow. Complaints of profiling and harassment dropped to historic lows, and the department's annual open house became a celebration of community partnership, with officers and residents sharing food, stories, and laughter. The supermarket, once the site of confrontation, now hosted monthly coffee with a cop events, where officers and shoppers could chat informally and build trust. The city council, recognizing the progress, increased funding for community policing and youth outreach programs, ensuring that the lessons learned would endure for years to come. The quiet respect he received from those who had witnessed his calm in the face of adversity was Marcus's greatest reward. He received letters from young people who were inspired to pursue careers in law enforcement or public service, and he was stopped on the street by strangers who thanked him for setting an example for them. He always responded with the same message: change is possible, but it starts with us. Every day, every choice, every conversation. The city held a small ceremony at the supermarket on the anniversary of the incident to unveil a plaque that read, "In honor of those who choose respect over fear and justice over pride." Marcus and Miller stood side by side, surrounded by friends, colleagues, and neighbors, their story a reminder that even the most difficult moments can lead to growth, understanding, and lasting change. As the crowd dispersed and the sun set over the city, Marcus felt a deep sense of peace. He had been tested, and he had answered with dignity. He had been challenged, and he had chosen to teach. And as he walked away from the store, he knew that the lessons of that day would echo far beyond the aisles of a single supermarket, carrying forward in every act of courage, every apology, and every step toward a more just and compassionate world.